Hello everyone, welcome to History and Culture. Sun Jiagan is in big trouble, he might lose his life this time. Yes, that son is really too arrogant, daring to criticize the court politics. Who does he think he is? Exactly. It's surprising that the emperor hasn't dealt with him yet. Especially since he just ascended the throne. This unfortunate guy seems to be done for. On a certain day in the first year of the Yongzheng era, during the morning court session before the emperor arrived, the ministers were engaged in lively discussions. Who is Sun Jiagan? How did he offend the emperor? Sun Jiagan, from Xing County in Shaanxi, came from a poor family but had lofty ambitions to achieve success through the imperial examination and rise to prominence. He worked hard, toiling for landlords during the day and studying late into the night. His efforts paid off, and in the 52nd year of Guangxu, at the age of 30, he finally passed the imperial examination and entered the officialdom. In China's feudal dynasties, the belief in the superiority of official positions is deeply rooted. Passing the imperial examination meant entering the halls of power, a great honor. Sun Jiagan's family had already produced 3 Jinshe, successful candidates, before him, bringing pride to his father and earning the admiration of his fellow villagers. As a standout among the Jinshe, Sun Jiagan was soon assigned to the Hanlin Academy. The Hanlin Academy served as a reserve for officials, with many high-ranking officials emerging from there. Not long after, he was promoted to the position of Shujishi and given a role involving reviews. The Shujishi position was temporary, essentially an internship. But it was a stepping stone to higher office. Famous Qing officials like Zhang Tingyu, Nian Gengyao, Zheng Guofan, and Li Hongzhang all started as Shujishi in the Hanlin Academy and eventually became important state figures. Zheng Guofan moved from Shujishi to chief examiner in just 5 years, and Nian Gengyao was also quickly promoted. However, Sun Jiagan's career was not so smooth, it was fraught with challenges and setbacks. Perhaps it was due to the many renowned ministers during the late Guangxu era, or perhaps the emperor overlooked Sun Jiagan, or maybe it was because Sun was too honest and didn't understand the unspoken rules of court. In any case, he worked diligently but waited for 9 years without any promotion, remaining stagnant. By the time Guangxu passed away, Sun Jiagan had spent 9 years as a Shujishi without being valued, while Nian Gengyao had already become the governor of Sichuan, and Zheng Guofan had risen to the position of deputy minister of rights. As the saying goes, one must sit on a cold bench for 10 years, but while it's easy to say, it's hard to accomplish, which is truly frustrating. Sun Jiagan must have felt anxious and eager for recognition. So after Yongzheng ascended the throne, he submitted a unique memorial to the emperor. This memorial was sharp and bold, akin to dropping a heavy bomb. The content of the memorial was, request for the close relatives to stop the donations and dismiss the Western troops. What did this mean? Request for close relatives meant that after Yongzheng took the throne, his treatment of his brothers had been biased, and this practice needed to change to provide them with better treatment and unify all possible forces. Stop the donations referred to the practice that began in the Xuanji era, where the Qing dynasty openly sold official positions. As long as one had money, they could buy an official title. However, these positions were mostly nominal, lacking real power and serving more as a matter of honor. The Qing government intended this to address fiscal difficulties. But Sun Jiagan believed it fostered corruption and harmed the image of officials. Dismiss the Western troops referred to the chaos in Qinghai due to the Luo Bozang Danzan rebellion after Yongzheng's ascension. To maintain the unity of the Qing dynasty, Yongzheng appointed Nian Gengyao as the Grand General of suppressing the foreign and commanded various armies from Xining. It would have been one thing if Yongzheng hadn't read the memorial. But upon reading it, he was furious. The rebellion in the West was crucial for the unification of the Qing dynasty. There was no room for compromise, yet Sun was suggesting to disband the troops, what a terrible idea. As for the donation system, it was a valuable legacy left by his predecessors. Without it, how could the Qin government maintain its finances? Sun Jiagan, you speak without understanding the consequences. But what angered Yongzheng the most was the first point, request for close relatives. There were rumors in the public that his throne was usurped and that he had gained power illegitimately. By suggesting I request for close relatives, it was as if he was validating those rumors and implying that I persecuted my brothers. How malicious was that? In Yongzheng's eyes, Sun Jiagan's memorial was simply presumptuous, nonsensical, and malicious, showing contempt for the emperor. If this matter wasn't severely punished, chaos in the court would surely follow. Thus, Yongzheng summoned his civil and military officials to announce Sun Jiagan's crimes, planning to deal with him harshly. Among the ministers, some took pleasure in his misfortune. Some added insult to injury, and others believed that Sun Jiagan brought it upon himself. Even those who felt sympathy dared not voice their opinions. Only Grand Scholar Zhu Shi mustered the courage to say, Sun Jiagan is indeed somewhat arrogant. But he dares to speak candidly and offer counsel. I admire his bravery, the emperor should encourage him. Zhu Shi was able to speak up for Sun Jiagan during the silence of others because he had certain confidence. He was fair and impartial, having been highly valued by the late Emperor Guangxu. During his time supervising the sea dikes in Zhejiang, Zhu Shi was honest and clean, ensuring that the dike constructions were sturdy and durable. Far from being substandard projects, they could withstand even the fiercest floods. When he served as the left chief censor, he enforced the law rigorously, showing no mercy to corrupt officials. During disaster relief, he ensured that the imperial grain was distributed to the people without a single tael missing. Yongzheng greatly appreciated him and appointed him Minister of Rights right after ascending the throne, granting him the plaque of Good Assistant to the court, and made him the mentor of the secret heir, Aizen Joro Hongli, who later became Emperor Qianlong. Because of this, Zhu Shi dared to stand up for Sun Jiagan. Yongzheng considered that he had just ascended the throne, and it was a critical moment to establish a good image. Punishing Sun Jiagan would block free speech and give opposing forces an excuse. So he said, I too admire his courage. Thus, Yongzheng not only refrained from punishing Sun Jiagan but promoted him to the position of director of the Imperial Academy. From this, it seems that Yongzheng indeed had a certain magnanimity. However, as the saying goes, serving the emperor is like accompanying a tiger. Not long after, Sun Jiagan encountered trouble again and nearly faced execution. It turned out that Sun Jiagan had previously recommended a candidate with both virtue and talent to Yongzheng. But later, this person made a mistake. Sun Jiagan then changed his stance, claiming that the individual lacked ability. Yongzheng was enraged, accusing him of inconsistency and questioning his judgment. In a fit of anger, Yongzheng handed Sun Jiagan over to the Ministry of Justice, seeing that it was a case assigned by the emperor himself. The ministry rushed to please him by determining a death sentence for Sun Jiagan. However, unexpectedly, Yongzheng told the officials, though Sun Jiagan has flaws, he possesses a rare virtue, he is not interested in money. In the end, Yongzheng not only pardoned Sun Jiagan but also transferred him to work in the Ministry of Revenue's treasury. This alternating punishment and reward was a basic skill of the emperor in managing his ministers. Yet Sun Jiagan was deeply grateful, working even harder to repay the emperor's mercy. Perhaps, as Yongzheng had just ascended the throne, it was a critical time for utilizing talents, and such trials served as a test for Sun Jiagan. To promote someone, one must first stretch their muscles and test their resolve. Sun Jiagan indeed passed the test, managing the treasury work efficiently and without error. Finally, in the 12th year of Yongzheng's reign, 1734, he was appointed as the Salt Commissioner of Hedong. The position of Salt Commissioner was recognized in ancient times as a lucrative post. Coveted by many, for instance, Chao Shuaqin's ancestor, Chao Yin, had served as the salt commissioner for the two Huai regions. By assigning this important position to Sun Jiagan, Yongzheng was not only expressing his trust but also bestowing great honor upon him. At this time, Sun Jiagan was already 51 years old. And it was fitting for him to make a good profit and enjoy his later years in retirement. Many in the court were waiting to see how Sun Jiagan would corrupt himself in this high-risk position. As the saying goes, how can one walk by the river for long without getting their shoes wet? However, the reality was quite the opposite. Sun Jiagan served in this lucrative post for many years without using his power for personal gain. Not taking even a single tael of silver. Not long after, Yongzheng, who had ruled for 13 years, passed away. And Sun Jiagan welcomed his new boss, Emperor Qianlong. When Emperor Qianlong ascended to the throne, Sun Jiagan, as was customary, submitted a memorial to the emperor, but this time, his tone was even bolder. In his memorial, Sun sternly advised Qianlong not to develop the bad habits of loving flattery and hating honesty, favoring softness and disliking firmness, and enjoying obedience while rejecting opposition. However, instead of being angered by these three admonitions, Qianlong accepted the advice and expressed his intention to heed Sun's words, diligently striving to be a good emperor and govern the country well. To honor Sun Jiagan's integrity and pragmatic spirit, as well as his courage in offering such advice, Qianlong promoted him to the position of Minister of Justice. With the new emperor's recognition and trust, Sun Jiagan worked even harder, remaining selfless, hating corruption, and continuing to achieve remarkable accomplishments. Not long after Sun became Minister of Justice, a cry for justice was heard in the main hall of the ministry. When he stepped outside, he saw a woman in her 40s. She was a farmer from Zhengzhou, Hunan, whose relative had been wrongly sentenced to death and was facing execution in the autumn. The woman had petitioned many departments but was always turned away. The officials were protecting each other, denying her any opportunity to present her grievance. Upon hearing that the newly appointed official Sun Jiagan was fair and incorruptible, she came to the Ministry of Justice to beat the drum and plead for justice. Sun carefully read her petition and sensed something suspicious. He then reviewed the case files and found numerous flaws. Determined to investigate the matter personally, he traveled to look into the case. After more than a month of investigation, Sun uncovered the truth and cleared the woman's relative of all charges. He also brought the corrupt officials and those responsible for the false accusations to justice. This incident spread Sun's reputation as Sun Qing Tian, honest and just Sun, far and wide, prompting many citizens to come forward with their grievances. Sun handled these cases on the spot, successfully redressing wrongs for over a dozen people. After this, Sun became even more dedicated, and his career flourished with multiple promotions. By 1738, he had risen to the position of governor of Zhili province. Upon taking office, he made a popular decision, lifting the ban on alcohol. Alcohol was considered the essence of grain, and during times of famine, brewing alcohol was seen as a great waste. The wealthy feasted on meat and wine, while the poor starved to death. To conserve grain, the government had imposed a ban on alcohol. However, even after the famine had passed, the ban remained in effect. As a result, the ban was largely ignored, and brewing activities continued unabated. After taking office, Sun Jiagan submitted a memorial to the emperor, explaining the reality of the situation. He noted that the ingredients used to brew alcohol, such as bean skins, barley, and husks, could indeed be eaten during a famine. But in times of abundance, these grains were often discarded, which was a waste. Sun argued that it would be better to use these materials to brew alcohol, creating added value. The leftover grains from brewing could even be used to feed pigs, providing numerous benefits with no downsides. He further pointed out that because of the alcohol ban, prices had risen, putting the burden on ordinary consumers. Lifting the ban, he suggested, would lower prices and benefit the people. After reading Sun's well-reasoned arguments, Qianlong agreed and promptly revised the ban. This doesn't mean that Sun Jiagan was the only official to see the drawbacks of the alcohol ban. Other officials noticed it too, but they chose to remain silent. Some feared offending others, preferring to avoid trouble and protect themselves. While others were secretly profiting from the ban and had ulterior motives for keeping quiet. In contrast, Sun Jiagan's love for his country and its people came from his heart. He didn't just pay lip service when something was beneficial to the nation and its people. He would speak out, regardless of the consequences, never fearing to offend anyone. He truly embodied the spirit of, if it benefits the country, I'll give my life for it. And I'll never shy away from danger for the sake of personal safety. However, this upright official found himself in trouble again after retirement, causing a commotion that even reached the emperor, all because of one unusual act. When Sun Jiagan retired and returned home, he had a whimsical idea. He gathered over a dozen large boxes, filled them with bricks, and hired several farmers to carry these boxes in a grand procession along the road. In this way, a sensation arose among the public. The heavy box of bricks caused the porter to sweat profusely. Passers-by who saw it, using their common sense, assumed the box contained treasures, either gold ingots, silver bars, or some other valuable items. The owner of the box had an unusual status, having held an important position in the court for many years. As the saying goes, 3 years as a magistrate, and you gain a fortune of 10,000 taels of silver. Why would Sun Jiagan flaunt his wealth like this? Was it vanity? Perhaps a little. As the old saying goes, a man in fine clothes returns to his hometown with pride. After all, what's the purpose of becoming an official if not to bring honor to your ancestors? However, Sun Jiagan was an honest and incorruptible official, known for his integrity. Returning home with nothing would indeed be humiliating. At the same time, Sun was also concerned about Emperor Qianlong's reputation. He didn't want to tarnish the court's image. Having served in the court for many years, if he returned home looking like a beggar, covered in dust and dirt, who would still aspire to be a government official? People would surely say scholars were poorly treated, and that Qianlong did not value talent. Soon, a public outcry ensued. People accused Sun Jiagan of being a hypocrite, a false paragon of virtue, pretending to be upright. Officials whom Sun had offended chimed in as well, claiming his vast wealth had no clear source and calling for an investigation to punish him severely, so as to restore integrity to the officialdom. Qianlong, upon hearing this, became suspicious, thinking, one can never fully know a person. So he dispatched cavalrymen to chase after Sun, hoping to catch him red-handed. But to everyone's shock, the box was filled entirely with bricks. After hearing the explanation, Qianlong was deeply moved and impressed by Sun Jiagan's noble character. Immediately, Qianlong ordered the cavalry to stop Sun from leaving, and had Hushan fetch gold ingots and silver bars from the treasury to replace the bricks in Sun's box. Sun tried to refuse but couldn't, so he distributed the gold and silver to the elderly and destitute along his journey home. By the time he arrived, the box was once again empty. When historians wrote about Sun Jiagan, they summarized his life and character. The summary noted that although Sun Jiagan had a special relationship with Emperor Qianlong, he remained humble and unassuming, never arrogant or overbearing due to the emperor's favor. He was pragmatic, indifferent to fame and fortune, and never sought accolades. He also avoided making friends, fearing that personal connections might lead to corruption and sully his lifelong reputation for integrity. In stark contrast to Hushan, who was also a favorite of Qianlong, Sun Jiagan is remembered in history with great honor and died peacefully, while Hushan became infamous and met a tragic end. This sharp contrast only serves to heighten people's admiration for Sun Jiagan. This is the History and Culture channel. Liking and subscribing are the greatest help and support to us. Thank you everyone and see you in the next time.